Imagine the unimaginable horror of consciousness lingering even after the body has been severed. For up to 30 seconds, a severed head can remain aware, its eyes blinking, its lips struggling to form words as the brain grapples with its sudden separation. This chilling detail, often glossed over in historical accounts, casts a haunting shadow over the execution of Anne Boleyn, the second wife of Henry VIII, whose death on May 19, 1536, was far more than a mere act of justice. It was a meticulously crafted spectacle designed to obliterate her legacy and reshape the narrative of Tudor England. Anne Boleyn's execution was not just the taking of a life. It was a calculated political act, a public performance meant to erase her identity and warn others against challenging the king's authority. In the brutal justice system of Tudor England, death was the culmination of orchestrated humiliation, and Anne's fate was no exception. Her execution was a carefully staged event intended to destroy not only her body, but her reputation, her influence, and her very existence in the annals of history. Born around 1501 to Thomas Boleyn and Elizabeth Howard, Anne was educated in the Netherlands and France, where she served as a lady-in-waiting to Queen Claude. Her time abroad shaped her into a sophisticated and charismatic woman fluent in French and versed in the latest European fashions and ideas. Returning to England in 1522, she caught the eye of Henry VIII, who was then married to Catherine of Aragon. Unlike her sister Mary, who had been Henry's mistress, Anne refused to become his lover without the promise of marriage. This refusal ignited Henry's obsession, setting in motion events that would change England forever. Anne's relationship with Henry was a catalyst for the English Reformation. To marry her, Henry sought to annul his marriage to Catherine, a move the Pope refused to sanction. Undeterred, Henry, with the aid of his chief minister, Thomas Cromwell, declared himself head of the Church of England, breaking ties with Rome. In January 1533, Anne and Henry were secretly married, and on June 1st she was crowned queen in a lavish ceremony. That September she gave birth to a daughter, Elizabeth, but her failure to produce a male heir began to strain her marriage. By 1536, Henry's affections had shifted to Jane Seymour, one of Anne's ladies-in-waiting. Anne's strong personality and political influence had made her enemies at court, particularly Cromwell, who saw her as a threat to his own power. In April, Cromwell orchestrated a series of accusations against Anne, charging her with adultery with 5 men, including her own brother George Boleyn, as well as incest and conspiracy to kill the king. These charges, historians widely agree, were likely fabricated, designed to justify her removal and clear the way for Henry's marriage to Jane, the National Archives. On May 2, 1536, Anne was arrested and taken to the Tower of London by barge entering through the Queen's Stairs, a bitter reminder of her former status. Her trial, held on May 15th in the King's Hall, was a sham attended by some 2,000 spectators. The jury, stacked with her enemies, including her uncle, the Duke of Norfolk, found her guilty of high treason. The verdict was a foregone conclusion, a political maneuver to eliminate a queen who had become a liability. For 17 agonizing days, Anne was confined in the Tower's royal apartments, the same rooms where she had stayed before her coronation. The contrast was stark. Once celebrated as England's queen, she now faced isolation and uncertainty. The repeated scheduling and rescheduling of her execution was a form of psychological torture, each delay heightening her dread. Reports from Sir William Kingston, the Constable of the Tower, describe Anne's erratic behavior, moments of laughter interspersed with despair, possibly signs of trauma-induced dissociation. On the eve of her execution, she reportedly joked about the skill of the executioner, saying, "I heard say, the executioner was very good, and I have a little neck," before laughing heartily. Historic royal palaces. In her final hours, Anne was mentally fractured. Having been awake for nearly 24 hours, she sought solace in prayer, requesting the sacraments at 2 in the morning. Her ladies-in-waiting noted her strange levity, a possible mask for the terror she felt. The accusations against her tales of sexual depravity and betrayal were designed to break her spirit, painting her as a traitor and a harlot in the eyes of the public. The scaffold on Tower Green was deliberately built low, keeping Anne close to the jeering crowd. This design turned her death into a public spectacle, a carnival-like event meant to humiliate her and serve as a warning to others. The atmosphere was charged with anticipation as courtiers, officials, and commoners gathered to witness the fall of a queen. Anne, dressed in a gray damask gown trimmed with fur and a red petticoat, ascended the scaffold with remarkable composure. Before her death, Anne addressed the crowd, her words carefully chosen to protect her daughter, Elizabeth. She said, "Good Christian people, I am come hither to die, for according to the law, and by the law I am judged to die, and therefore I will speak nothing against it. I am come hither to accuse no man, nor to speak anything of that whereof I am accused and condemned to die. But I pray God save the King, and send him long to reign over you, for a gentler, nor a more merciful prince was there never, and to me he was ever a good, a gentle and sovereign lord. And if any person will meddle of my cause, I require them to judge the best. And thus I take my leave of the world and of you all, and I heartily desire you all to pray for me." Her speech was a masterstroke of diplomacy, praising Henry to safeguard Elizabeth's future while subtly asserting her innocence. The Anne Boleyn Files. Henry, notably absent, was at Whitehall Palace celebrating his engagement to Jane Seymour. For him, Anne's death was a formality, a necessary step to secure a male heir and move forward with his new bride. The execution itself was swift. The French swordsman hired for his precision delivered a single clean strike, severing Anne's head from her body. Yet even in death, her body betrayed signs of life. Witnesses reported that her eyes blinked and her lips moved for several seconds, a horrifying sight that left an indelible mark on those present. History Extra. Anne's remains were treated with disdain. With no coffin prepared, her body was hastily placed in an arrow chest and buried in an unmarked grave within the chapel of St. Peter ad Vincula in the Tower. This lack of ceremony reflected Henry's intent to erase her memory. The day before, her brother George Boleyn, Lord Rochford, had faced a similar fate. On his scaffold he urged the crowd to trust in God, admitting his own failings. "Trust in God, and not in the vanities of the world. For if I had so done, I think I had been alive as ye be now." His words, recorded by poet Thomas Wyatt, underscored the tragedy of the Boleyn family's fall. The Anne Boleyn Files. Henry's campaign to erase Anne extended beyond her death. He ordered the destruction of her portraits, the removal of her emblems, and silenced courtiers who might speak of her. Their marriage was annulled, rendering Elizabeth illegitimate, and Henry married Jane Seymour just 11 days later. Jane would give birth to Edward VI, but she died shortly after, leaving Henry to continue his quest for a stable dynasty. Despite these efforts, Anne's legacy could not be fully suppressed. Her daughter Elizabeth became one of England's greatest monarchs, reigning for 45 years and ushering in the Elizabethan era, a time of cultural and economic flourishing. Anne's role in the English Reformation, which established the Church of England, remains a pivotal moment in history. Historians such as Eric Ives and Haley Nolan argue that Anne was likely innocent, a victim of political expediency orchestrated by Cromwell and Henry Time. While some, like Catholic historian Nicholas Sanders, vilified her, modern scholarship leans toward her as a reformist figure unjustly condemned. Anne Boleyn's story is one of power, betrayal, and resilience. From a noblewoman educated in European courts to a queen who reshaped England's religious landscape, her life was marked by ambition and tragedy. Her execution, a brutal act of political theater, could not erase her impact. Today, she is a cultural icon, her life immortalized in books, films, and series like The Tudors and Wolf Hall. Her grave, rediscovered in 1876 at St. Peter ad Vincula, stands as a quiet testament to a woman who faced her fate with courage. The execution of Anne Boleyn is a stark reminder of the fragility of power and the enduring strength of legacy. It is a story that continues to captivate, a testament to a woman who, despite the efforts to erase her, remains an indelible part of history.